Insider trading, Darren Dreger, Pierre LeBrun, and Chris Johnston. And guys, as we know, it's relatively quiet on the NHL free agent list. I mean, you can look months down the line to find July 1st. But Pierre, it doesn't mean we're not watching the great starts of, say, Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche, and all of the scenarios that could unfold between now and July.
Well, imagine those two star players, Dregs, on the market July 1st, and James Duthie frothing at the mouth for free agent frenzy. And by the way, it's not out of the question, but if you ask me, I think it's more likely each of these players ends up signing an extension and staying put. However, the road there I don't think will be easy. And the reason for that is I think both the Avalanche with Nathan MacKinnon at $12.6 million a year and the Leafs with Captain Austin Matthews at $13.25 million a year certainly have sort of an internal cap there that I believe has been or will be cited in negotiations with Rantanen and Marner, respectively. And you get why the teams would have that position. It's pretty obvious. But it's not like it's an actual rule in the CBA. And the agents in question representing Rantanen and Marner, I think, have some counter arguments. One is those extensions were signed, and since then the salary cap landscape has changed dramatically. The cap is going way up here over the next few years. Number two, those agents for sure will talk about percentage of the cap, not necessarily the actual AAV. And so this negotiation, to me, both for Rantanen and for Marner, is going to be so interesting where it ends up. Can the Leafs get Mitch Marner at $13 million or less? Can the Avalanche get Rantanen at $12.6 million or less? I'll tell you right now, I think Rantanen believes he can make $14 million on the open market. So I don't have the answer, but I think those are the stakes right now in those two negotiations.
Well, and at the same time, the Leafs are involved in perhaps a little bit less complicated of negotiation with John Tavares, who has made it very clear he would like to remain in Toronto, has no interest in testing the free agent market. But to this point, discussions have not got to a stage where everyone's comfortable with the deal on the table. And I think one thing that's popped up as a possibility here is using deferred salary compensation as a way perhaps to bridge some of the financial gap that exists today. And you'll remember the Leafs did use this with Jake McCabe, lowering his cap hit on the extension he signed in October. Carolina did it with a couple players over the summer. And so as these negotiations, discussions with Tavares go on, I think that's certainly a possibility we see should they get to an extension.
All right, fellas, let's shift to the West. Craig Conroy, the Calgary Flames, are on an Eastern Conference tour. Conroy is scouting the OHL, but he's also in search of a top six center. Now, the fact that Calgary would like to add a centerman isn't news, but it has to be very age appropriate. So he's looking for a second line center who can play with the Flames for the next 3 to 5 years. But beyond that, he could get aggressive as well. It all depends if the Calgary Flames hang in the mix. They're off to a terrific start, top 10 in the National Hockey League. Craig Conroy and the Calgary Flames could be a bigger player than anticipated on that March 7th trade deadline.
It's interesting, Dreg, Flames looking for a center. I mean, you know, Brad Treliving, I quoted him recently where he reiterated that, yeah, and all things being equal, probably center depth is where the Leafs are going to look at ahead of March 7th trade deadline. Barry Trotz has been quoted extensively this year by a lot of people saying, yeah, you know, they're looking to upgrade at center. So I detect an early trend here ahead of March 7th and teams trying to upgrade down the middle. Easier said than done.
Yeah, and look, we have to look back at the New York Rangers as well. I mean, lots of teams are swirling around Chris Drury and the Rangers beyond what's been speculated this week with the news of Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba being available. I'm told that Kaapo Kakko's name has resurfaced. Now, it's not like the Rangers are willing to give this guy away. They drafted him second overall in 2019. Ice time is a bit of an issue. Kakko probably wants a fresh start, but again, if they're trading out pieces like that, then the return is going to have to be exactly what the New York Rangers are looking for. But undoubtedly, there's interest there. And meanwhile, Chris, the NHL, as we know, is always looking for a project, and it sounds like they're working on a big one for 2025.
Absolutely, a unique project in which the NHL is going to name quarter-century teams for each of the 32 franchises. And the way they're going to do that is they're using members of the media, retired players, executives to vote on each team's top 6 players at forward, top 4 at defense, and top goaltenders that played for those teams between January 1st, 2000 and today. Those will start getting rolled out at the end of December and through into the new year. But lots of debate, I'm sure, about the selections that ultimately get made.
Well, it's a big project. We are the Insiders, Darren Dreger, Chris Johnston, and Pierre LeBrun.